Coming up on Forbidden Secrets. From the files of a private investigator, discover the secret to being your own private eye when we tell the tale of the case of the suspicious spouse.
When you start an investigation, you're going down a trail, and you have to follow that trail.
She had reasons to snoop. She had reasons to spy. She had suspicions that her guy had a secret. See how a wife became her own private eye. Then, psychic surgery, miracle cure, or dangerous fraud? Find out the truth behind the miraculous claims of psychic healers. We'll show you how clever con artists perform surgeries. Plus, Armageddon out of here to a place called Mount Weather. If the bombs fall, government leaders will hightail it to a country club bomb shelter built only for them. We'll take you behind the bomb-proof doors to see the best-kept secret in Washington. All this and more tonight on Forbidden Secrets.
Did you ever think of using a private investigator? Well, save your money. Do it yourself, because you too can be your own private eye.
Liverwurst, your favorite?
When you start an investigation, you're going down a trail, and you have to follow that trail wherever it might lead you. Sometimes you're not going to like what you find out. Everybody has a secret. If you think you can hide that secret, you can't. Sooner or later, somebody's going to find out.
Michael Cardos should know. For 10 years, he worked as a private investigator for the rich and famous. Like many, he kept his methods secret. Retired to pursue life as a Hollywood screenwriter, Cardos has nothing to lose. He's going to tell you the secret to being your own private eye.
Private investigators are people that establish facts. They're very thorough, they don't make assumptions, and they build a trail or a chain of information. It's not evidence, it's information, and it's facts.
Let's see how you could use the secrets of private eyes in a common case of suspicion. With a kiss and a wave, a housewife sees her husband off to work.
Listen, you know I'm going to be late tonight, right?
Honey.
But lately, he's been working late, and the same night each week.
You know you're my girl.
Her intuition says he's keeping a secret. And when you sense a secret, suspicion often follows close behind.
Let's say, for example, that a spouse is suddenly suspicious about the behavior of their husband. A pattern or behavior has changed. She finds a phone number with no name in her husband's pocket. She's not familiar with the phone number. Well, that's two things. She may find a credit card receipt with the name of a florist. What's going on? Do they have a girlfriend on the side? She's going to want to know more.
The woman does what any good private eye would, a stakeout, surveillance of her husband's office building.
Surveillance doesn't run on your schedule. It runs on the schedule of the person that you're surveilling. So that means that you can't take a break to go get a hamburger. You had better prepare in advance to be there for a good long while.
Time passes as slow as the express line at a supermarket. But to get the goods, a private eye's got to be tough.
In a case where a spouse might be suspicious about the activities of their loved one, those bring in some other problems as well. The first one is being able to identify you. You don't want to be seen. You must be careful. You might want to wear a disguise, a hat, a pair of glasses.
The stakeout is tough, but this lady's no chump. She's got what it takes, and her patience pays off.
So let's say that a woman goes to her husband's office. Her husband comes up and there's a young woman that he's either familiar or affectionate with. That would cause some real suspicion, I'm sure. If they get on separate cars and decide to drive off, what is she going to do now?
Rolling surveillance, it's called. The woman runs a high risk of getting made. That's PI talk for being spotted by her husband.
You want to be able to keep the car in sight at all times. If you can, you want to try to stay in the blind spot of the driver so that they don't have a chance to make you. But you want to be able to stay close enough so that if they make a turn, you can stay with them. You want to be looking at the traffic around you, what's going on. You want to be knowing what the lights are like in front of you so that if you need to make a green light, you can. If you have to stop but not lose your subject, you can do that as well. If you're having to tail someone by yourself, that's the most difficult tail of all.
She knew her husband's car like the back of her hand, and following the yellow vet was easy. But now what?
Now her husband goes someplace that is completely out of character, a secluded spot, just happens to be in a cemetery. She wants to continue the surveillance, but she doesn't want to be made, so she's going to have to park far enough away. If she was smart, she would have prepared in advance and brought with her a pair of binoculars so that she could observe the activity without being seen.
A PI is a chameleon who always has a good story ready, just in case. They call it a cover.
Let's say she gets spotted. An investigator is already going to have thought of story up in advance. Likely the wife's not going to have done that.
Ma'am?
So her only choice is to leave. And the big mistake of her leaving and not getting additional information is that she's going to probably make assumptions about what goes on after she's gone.
It's a setback, close call, but she's got a phone number and a gut feeling. And for a good private eye, that often leads to one place. Libraries have what is called a crisscross or reverse directory. It's like a phone book that matches numbers to street addresses.
Now she has an address, and any good investigator, whether it's an individual or hired professional, they're going to work on facts. What she's trying to do is uncover the dirt. And one thing that she might do, which in the business is called trashing, is go steal the garbage. You want to know what's going on, and garbage is a great way to know more about somebody's life. She wouldn't want to walk onto the property because that's trespassing. That's illegal. But if you set your trash out on the curb, that's considered public property. And once you set it out, you're giving up your rights to it. She's trying to dig up the dirt on them. She wants to get the garbage. That's a great way to look into who we are and the kinds of people we are. She might find something suspicious in there.
Suspicion is like mold on cheese in the back of the refrigerator. It spreads until it covers everything. The lady's got assumptions. Her judgment is clouded. She's emotionally involved in her case. That's poison to an investigation.
She finds a pill bottle for prescription, and the last name matches her husband's name. That stops her right there.
She goes back to the cemetery. She finds that a woman was recently buried. A woman with the same last name as her husband. The same last name that was on the prescription. The same last name as hers.
She made some assumptions based on what she saw, and it turns out that that wasn't the case at all. She found out that her husband had been married before, and his ex-wife had recently died. He wasn't there romantically involved with that woman. He was consoling his daughter, who he had not seen in years. The one thing you want to do if you're going to be your own PI is to leave your emotions out of it. Accurately observing what you see is critical. You can't let emotions or assumptions cloud what you see. If the young woman is wearing a short skirt, does that make her available, or is it just a hot summer day? When she got to the cemetery and saw her husband and that other woman, she thought they were romantically involved. Because she wasn't being objective, she assumed the worst. If you have a question about your spouse, if you think something's going wrong, if something's not right, just ask, because chances are you'll find out the truth.
So you can be your own investigator, but before you go down that road, be careful, because at the end you may find out as much about yourself as your suspect. If you're dying to know the truth, be patient and ask questions.
Honey, you know I'm gonna be late tonight. Sorry. Oh,
It's okay. You have nothing to be sorry for, big boy.
You're the best.
And remember, some secrets are best left alone.
Coming up next on Forbidden Secrets. Find out the truth behind the miraculous claims of psychic healers.
Things like cancer, tumors, viral and bacterial infections are not going to go away by suggestion.
And later, Bigfoot hunters. They search, they track, they sniff, but find nothing. Is Bigfoot too smart for these guys?
It'd be a shame to run into a hungry Bigfoot down here as far as we are into the woods.
Or do they know something you don't?
This could be people, but it could be something else.
Find out when we reveal the secrets of Bigfoot hunters.
Secrets.
And now, a little secret of life. Where did the $sign come from? The answer right after this.
Secrets. Forbidden secrets. Secrets. Forbidden secrets.
Where did the $sign come from? Well, some think the $sign originated from a stylized abbreviation for the United States, but actually the sign is derived from the Spanish abbreviation for pesos. The $sign was in wide use before the adoption of the dollar in 1785.
Secrets.
These days, a growing number of people are turning to alternate forms of medicine to treat their ills. But are they really finding cures or clever con men?
The Filipino psychic surgeons welcome them with open arms and with an open bank account as well.
She dug her fingers deeply into my abdomen.
The most remarkable of these alternative treatments was started in the Philippines, where people claim that serious illnesses have been cured by psychic surgeons. The psychics say that by following the energy of a person's spirit, they can locate the diseased part of the body and, without a single cut, remove it. How is this possible? Renowned magician and psychic debunker James Randi has been investigating.
What you're about to see is exactly the effect to the senses that you would see if you were watching a psychic surgeon operation in the Philippines. It's rather dramatic.
They say that it's exactly the same thing as regular surgery, except that they don't have to make the incision. Many people, even PhDs that we know in science, have actually gone off to the Philippines. The Filipino psychic surgeons welcome them with open arms and with an open bank account as well. Then you're actually given envelopes with the names of the psychic surgeons and the attendants written right on there with a suggested amount of money that you should place inside. And you're expected to fill that envelope.
But it's not just the Philippines. Psychic surgeons have been coming to the United States as well.
I went to a Philippines healer who had come to America illegally, and I went to her church and laid on her table and she dug her fingers deeply into my abdomen, and she pulled out something that looked like a chicken skin, and blood started coming out of my abdomen. She had never moved away from my view, and I had never had my eyes closed, and I don't know how she would have rigged the table enough to get it to to spurt blood out of the sheets.
Many of the Pentecostal and the fundamentalist churches here in the United States sponsor these people, and they come over as Reverend so-and-so, Reverend such and such, and they say that they're here to tour churches. They split the proceeds with them, and the psychic surgeons here in Florida, I know, one of the fees that they were getting was $100 a minute to perform these operations.
Each year, hundreds of the ill and infirmed undergo these expensive psychic surgeries. With so many believers, is it possible that there's something to this after all? These operations are convincing, but James Randi is confident that they're fake. So confident, in fact, that the James Randi Educational Foundation offers $1 million prize to anyone who can prove that a psychic phenomenon is real.
I would expect to hear people knocking on the door this very minute, trying to beat down the door to win the $1 million prize, but I don't hear anybody. Do you? They say that they reach inside and they take out tumors. What they're really doing is taking out bits of, in many parts, the innards of chickens and various other things. Now, when these analyses are done of the blood and it turns out to be chicken blood, they say that that's part of the miracle. You say that only God could change human blood into chicken blood, so we have an additional miracle here. They say that there is no known physical explanation for this. Well, there is. It's sleight of hand, it's simple trickery. It's simply a case of concealing a small plastic bag, like a sandwich baggie, with blood and some guts in it behind your hand.
You can see in this video a glossy-looking substance being removed from the body. That's the plastic bag.
People don't know that it's a plastic bag. They simply think that it's part of the dreadful impurities that were inside the body.
But if psychic surgery is a hoax, then why do so many people claim to be helped by it?
If they knew it was sleight of hand, of course, I think they wouldn't go. But the point is they don't know that it's sleight of hand. But things like cancer, tumors, viral and bacterial infections are not going to go away by suggestion. No, I think there's no value in it whatsoever, and the harm that it does really relates directly to the fact that you take yourself away from orthodox care. Certainly you're in much better hands with an orthodox physician than you are in the hands of the charlatans.
So, before you think about putting yourself in the hands of a psychic surgeon or any other unaccredited healer, be sure to talk to a trained doctor. It could save your life.
Coming up next on Forbidden Secrets.
Shelley Winters read it in the paper and went on the Tonight Show that night. So she said, the flower of American youth is being killed in Vietnam.
Secrets.
Well, I heard that little one died. So, well, no, she's going to be performing tonight. No, whoever's performing, that's got to be an imposter. So I became like the Billy Shears of the Brady Bunch.
Secrets.
Plus, just getting through the airport is a safety issue in itself. But what do you need to concern yourself with once you board the plane? Up, and away, learn how you can protect yourself while flying.
Secrets.
And now, a little secret of life. Why are most perfumes yellow? The answer right after this.
Secrets. Forbidden secrets. Secrets. Forbidden secrets.
Why are most perfumes yellow? Well, there's no mystery here. Most perfumes are yellow because that's the natural color of the oils used in the perfume. Some perfumes may smell great, but look ugly. If that happens, the perfume can be packaged in a solid bottle that hides the color.
Secrets.
When it comes to urban legends, celebrities get their share. And if they've been out of the public eye, it's even more difficult to shake. Here's two who know.
One of the things I always say about the urban legend that I was killed in Vietnam is the rumors of my death are greatly exaggerated. I'm Jerry Mathers, the Beaver. I did not die in Vietnam. I don't really know how the myth that I died in Vietnam started. I had just graduated from basic training. I didn't have an agent, a PR person, a manager, any of those things that an actor who was working in the business at the time would have. So when it came out that I died in Vietnam, I read it in the paper just like everybody else. And then Shelley Winters read it in the paper and went on the Tonight Show that night. So she said, you know, the flower of American youth is being killed in Vietnam. Jerry Mathers died today. Now, I didn't know her, I don't know her, and she didn't know me, but having read it in the paper, she believed it to be true. So that even added more credence to the story. I did call up the wire services, and they said that probably a bureau chief was scanning casualty lists and saw either the same name or a similar name, or somehow decided that it was me that had been killed in Vietnam, pulled my obituary file, and just ran it.
The Grim Reaper of urban legend land also stalks the former star of the Brady Bunch, Susan Olsen, who's now grown up with a little one of her own.
Contrary to the urban legend, I am not dead. I'm very much alive, and I'm very happy to be alive because I'm doing one of the most satisfying jobs I've ever done, which is being a mom. Actually, there are two urban legends about me. The first one is my death, and it's had quite a life of its own. It began because there was a girl named Susan Olsen who died. She was drugged by a bus. Her coat got caught in the door, and I've always felt very, very guilty because this is a real person who died, and I stole her thunder because everybody thought it was me. Then Buffy and Anessa Jones from Family Affair, she sadly died. She OD'd. And because we looked so much alike, it was presumed or misunderstood that it was me who died. So again, there was more fuel to the fire. And in fact, when we were on concert tour, when I was only 12 years old and the Brady Bunch was still on, we were in the South, and my mom overheard some women talking, well, I heard that little one died. So, well, no, she's going to be performing tonight. Well, no, whoever's performing, that's got to be an imposter. So I became like the Billy Shears of the Brady Bunch. I always figured that it was an honor. Paul McCartney was the dead Beatle, I'm the dead Brady.
Secrets.
No matter how comfortable you are with flying, I'm pretty sure that somewhere in the depths of your subconscious, there is a fear of crashing. While flying is still a much safer bet than driving, our travel expert Laura McKenzie has some tips on what you can do to protect yourself while on an airplane.
Most of the time, you have quite a few obstacles to deal with before you even reach the door of the airplane. Crowded airports, long lines, canceled seat assignments, pickpockets, security checks, and flight delays. And then once you get on board, there's the fight for carry-on space and the jockeying for command of the armrest. Now, safety is something you really don't want to think about when you fly, but it's something you should not only think about, but prepare for.
As a passenger, you may feel that there's not very much you can do to ensure your safety. But by taking simple, practical measures, you can decrease your chance of injuries while flying.
You have to remember that the flight attendants are not waiters in the sky. They're trained professionals whose top priority is your safety. So when they're talking about the exit rows, pay attention. When they're talking about putting that little cup over your mouth when it drops down in front of you, even if you don't feel there's any difference in the air quality, pay attention, put it on your mouth.
Find it, Hal. Good boy.
The two most important safety issues that airlines concern themselves with are security and maintenance.
These two issues are the two things that U.S. airlines were fined for most in the last couple of years.
Passengers need to be aware of an airline's safety record. You can find out that information by writing the FAA, the Department of Transportation, or independent providers that can easily be accessed online.
You really can't concern yourself with a specific aircraft safety record because when you take a flight, the airlines often swap out aircraft at the last minute. So a specific plane safety records, don't worry about that. The safest place to sit on an airplane is where I like to sit, on an aisle, and close to an exit so I can get up quickly and get out of the plane. Now, past crashes have shown that the tail section often breaks off and passengers sitting in the very back survive.
If you survive a plane crash, there will be a lot of fire and smoke. A simple precaution that you can take before you board an airplane is to wear the right type of clothing. It could save your life.
Synthetic fabrics will melt at a lower temperature, so natural fabrics like wool and cotton are going to be a safer choice. If you want to take the initiative to be as safe as possible on a plane, then do what I do. You sit in your seat and you find the emergency exit. Count the rows to where it is. Find the one behind you and count the rows to where it is, because in an emergency you're going to be blinded by smoke and you're going to have to feel your way out. So if you have an escape plan in your head, it'll save you a few seconds and it could save your life.
Bye, thank you very much. Bye, thank you.
Coming up next, the best-kept secret inside the Beltway. See the country club bomb shelter built for the Washington insiders. Instead of taking a hit like the rest of us, government officials will be safe and secure in a bomb-proof Valhalla called Mount Weather. And later, Bigfoot hunters. They search the world over but find only footprints. Do they really want to find Bigfoot? Or do they secretly want to be Bigfoot?
In fact, this is a Sasquatch nest.
Discover the answer when we take to the trail of Bigfoot.
And now, a little secret of life. Why are most homes in the U.S. painted white? The answer right after this.
Secrets, forbidden secrets. Secrets, forbidden secrets.
Why are most homes in the U.S. painted white? Well, basically tradition. The Puritan colonists favored the color white since it conveyed purity and solid values. White paint was also more durable than other paint mixtures.
Secrets.
If humanity was ever wiped out in a nuclear war, you may be glad to know that our government has a plan. Unfortunately, it doesn't include you. One of Washington's best-kept secrets is the existence of a doomsday fortress built to ensure the survival of an elite group of government officials and Washington insiders. Come with us to a secret subterranean compound reserved for Washington fat cats. If the bombs fall, don't worry about bureaucratic bigwigs. They'll be safe and secure in a monstrous bomb shelter built from your tax dollars. Greenbrier is a resort nestled in the rolling hills of West Virginia. To a select group of government leaders, Greenbrier hides a secret of earth-shattering proportions.
Greenbrier is a very fashionable resort in West Virginia, with golf courses and spas. It's just a lovely and beautiful site, and the last place in the world you would think would be a retreat for Armageddon. But in fact, it was one of the best-kept secrets in the American government. It was where Congress would go in the event of nuclear war, and from there it was to govern as a legislative body. The Greenbrier bunker is buried inside a hillside. It has an entrance and an exit which are protected by massive blast-proof doors, so massive that the hinges alone weigh tons. So you can imagine how big the door is. It had to be delivered there on a railroad track, picked up by crane and built by Mosler Safe. Inside, there was a cafeteria, a dormitory. There was a clinic for surgery, a furnace that could be used for a crematorium in the event that some of the members of Congress or their staff were exposed to radiation and died. A long corridor that was filled with rations. There were a couple of diesel generators, a whole communications system that would keep it in touch with Mount Weather, where the president would be, and with the Pentagon. There was a press room from which they could have tried to calm an anguished population racked by radiation sickness and loss. All of this was completely out of sight of the guests of the Greenbrier. The locals knew something was there. They might not have known what it was, but they knew something was there, and it was top secret. At a certain point in the Cold War history, the government threw up its hands and gave up on the idea of protecting the public. Civil defense was simply thrown overboard, but that did not stop them from providing for themselves.
Greenbrier is not the only doomsday shelter built for government personnel. There are 96 other shelters lying under the Appalachian Mountains. 45 miles outside Washington, off Route 601, is the central hub of the underground network.
And this was the place to which the President, the Supreme Court justices, and the cabinet secretaries and their staffers would go in the event of a nuclear attack. They reinforced a mine with tens of thousands of rivets and beams and concrete so that it became very much a hardened bunker.
Carved out of solid rock, ranging across 85 acres of subterranean caverns, Mount Weather is a multi-level structure.
All the functions that the federal government performs would have had representatives within the mountain. There would be a little city, essentially, within this mountain.
Living and recreational amenities are situated on the lower levels where the shock of a nuclear blast might not penetrate. It's rumored the most powerful computer in the world is located in the deepest chamber.
So now you know. If a worldwide catastrophe ever strikes, our government will be safe in a secret network of underground bomb shelters. But you and I, we're on our own.
Coming up next, he stands 9 foot tall and weighs 845. He doesn't say much. He's kind of quiet and shy. And if he spoke at all, he'd just say bye. He's Bigfoot. Bigfoot, America's homegrown legend, has got one big secret to tell.
Secrets.
And now, a little secret of life. Do paper toilet seat covers protect us against anything? The answer right after this.
Secrets. Forbidden secrets. Secrets. Forbidden secrets.
Do paper toilet seat covers protect us against anything? There's no scientific evidence that you can catch anything by sitting on a bare toilet seat. In fact, experts conclude people use paper toilet seat covers not for their sanitation value, but because they don't like the thought of sitting on a surface where a stranger once sat.
Secrets.
The hunt for a creature called Bigfoot captures our imaginations. I know it captured mine when the big fellow and I squared off on the $6 Million Man, but that's showbiz. What about the truth? What is the true secret behind the beast we call Bigfoot?
Do you have what it takes to track the mighty one?
This thing would run 4 times my speed, screaming and roaring.
I ran down the mountain as fast as I could.
Not really animal or man.
Find out when we follow the trail of Bigfoot hunters into the secret world of myth and legend.
It's a right foot, got a big toe.
Bigfoot is so named because he leaves enormous humanoid footprints wherever he walks.
Step right here.
Through mud,
Jeez.
snow,
Okay, look at this one right here.
and
What is
ice.
that? This could be people, but it could be something else.
One never knows where the hairy one will appear, but he's never been seen clearly, or for very long. The Wild Man, Maracoxy, Abominable Snowman, Yeti, and Sasquatch. Bigfoot is called by many names, but so far he hasn't answered to any of them. The hunting grounds for Bigfoot range from the tall trees of America's Northwest, the marshy wilds of Florida, to the mighty Himalayas, thought to be the big feller's ancestral home. The Australian outback is the stomping grounds for Bigfoot's little cousin known as Yowie. Based on tracks and sightings, researchers know this much about the elusive creature. He weighs a half a ton, averages 9 feet tall, and smells so bad the words that describe the odor cannot be said on television.
It smells like,
Despite the stench, men all over the world are consumed by the hunt of Bigfoot.
We're approximately 3 miles from any human habitation, and this area that you see around us is the type of areas that we go to hunt Bigfoot in.
Now, throughout the history of mankind, the stories that we tell ourselves, we always have these heroes.
Pamela Smith is an expert on mythology. She is fascinated by the enduring legend of Bigfoot and those who pursue him.
These lone individuals who go out into the wilderness, either searching for adventure, or who take upon themselves the burden of ridding the people of something that has been a problem. Whether it's Theseus going to Crete to slay the Minotaur, or you have all of the labors of Hercules.
This is the spot that I found, the first track I found down here was in this spot right in here.
You have this concept of the lone individual rising to the occasion, if you will, and going out past the boundaries of civilization in order to encounter something strange, something unusual, and something troubling.
It'd be a shame to run into a hungry Bigfoot down here as far as we are into the woods.
To think that there is a man-like creature that can perpetually live in that pure wilderness, in a state of innocence, is appealing.
I definitely believe that is a shelter built by a Sasquatch.
Some say Bigfoot will never be found because he's a phantom, a spirit creature of the wild.
We call him Swonaitum, a mystery to our people for before the Europeans even landed in this continent.
Native Americans have lived in Bigfoot's backyard for centuries.
He is a very spiritual being, not really animal or man, but a sort of a spirit in between.
There are others who see Bigfoot not as a benevolent spirit, but as a species of savage ape.
There's something out there, we'll catch it.
Dean Harrison has had hair-raising, heart-pounding, close encounters with Bigfoot's Australian cousin, the Yowie.
I turned tail, ran as fast as I could. This thing would run 4 times my speed, screaming and roaring the whole time.
Who could blame Yowie? If you were being chased by these guys, you'd be screaming too.
Caught me within no time, rushed ahead of me, went to cut me off.
Come on, guys, let's move. Come on.
Still screaming and roaring and bellowing, and it lunged out of the bushes just as I turned right and just missed me.
Neither close encounters nor scientific research have produced anything to convince skeptics that Bigfoot is anything more than a myth.
You don't find bits of hair that are verifiable, I would presume by DNA. You don't find fecal matter, you don't find bones, you don't find homes or dens or dwellings.
I don't think this thing's been used for quite a while. If, in fact, this is a Sasquatch nest.
Besides the lack of evidence, there's always the possibility of a hoax. These look like fresh Bigfoot tracks, but they weren't made by any mysterious beast of the woods. Many believe, but few can prove anything at all. Rather, it seems like every day something else is explained away.
Here's a footprint that was taken. It looks as if it's the claws of an enormous animal, perhaps a yowie. But when you look at it carefully, all it is the footprint from a kangaroo. And when these two go down together in mud on the tiptoes, you simply get a print that looks like that, and it's easily explainable.
Still, they're the true believers, those who have encountered Bigfoot firsthand. They are haunted by the memory. People like Jamie Flannery, who watches for Bigfoot now because of what happened to him in 1960.
I had just moved to Spokane with my grandparents. I was 14 at the time, and I asked my grandparents' permission to hike up the mountain. I was told no due to the
distance and the winter conditions. The next weekend, I walked up the day road that led me to the top of Mount Kit Carson. I could see the top of Mount Spokane from the peak of Mount Kit Carson, and it looked incredibly close. Thinking no one would know, I decided to hike to the top of the mountain. It was snowing, and I was cutting a fresh trail as I hiked. After reaching the summit, I decided I better follow my tracks back so I didn't get lost. About 300 feet down, I discovered tracks leading away from my footprints into the forest. Something with huge feet had followed me all the way up the mountain. The tracks looked like bare feet, but were very big, and it was obvious the thing was walking on its hind feet. I'd never heard of Bigfoot, so I could only think it was a huge bear. Then other thoughts came to mind. It's the middle of winter. Shouldn't bears be hibernating? He must have gotten hungry. I ran down the mountain as fast as I could into the deep snow, and soon saw that the thing had found my tracks and started following me. It looked like the thing had been walking on its hind feet the whole time. It didn't take me long to get off the mountain and back home. I couldn't tell anyone what had happened, as I would have been in trouble for going up there.
Well, that's as close as I've come to seeing Bigfoot, at least for now. There's a small number of us, true believers, who know that Bigfoot exists. Bigfoot Investigation Patrol. All of us have specific areas that we patrol, and I'm out here on a regular basis. And my pad quite often is filled, well, absolutely, for me it's been filled with no sightings whatsoever.
But Bigfoot's believers persevere. According to experts like Smith, that's beneficial to us all.
Well, the search for Bigfoot then can be seen as the search for that noble savage within, the purity within, the innocence within that gets lost in modern times. I'll go way out in the forest here. You could even call it a form of worship, if you will, and a form of seeking to unite with something greater than self, something different than self. And that's what certainly most spiritual systems are about, certainly what most religions are about.
For the Bigfoot hunters, this is a search for the holy, hairy grail. Hunting for Bigfoot in spite of...
The most difficult part is the belief in that there is an existence.
Or perhaps because of...
This better be worth the effort.
The mountain of evidence against them.
It takes us out of our mundane existence. It takes us out of our everyday lives. It gives us that sense of mystery, that sense of adventure, that sense of exploration that is what makes us human and more.
Bigfoot may exist only in a boyhood memory, or in the dream of a man chasing shadows in the forest, or in the mystical beliefs of an ancient culture. He may be as intangible as the wisp of mountain fog, but Bigfoot's legend gives us something very real.
The secret of the myth of Bigfoot is that, like all of those things that we love to explore and discover, it makes us bigger than ourselves.
Secrets.
Thanks for joining us on Forbidden Secrets.
Secrets.
On the next episode of Forbidden Secrets. Astrologer and past life regressionist Gene Avery explains how unlocking the door to a past life can heal emotional issues in the present.
I get very touched when I think of the capability of healing people from such deep-seated fears and concerns and problems.
Secrets.
Then,
You're out of here. Go back to your desk, pack up, and get out of here.
Do you hear me?
they take delight in controlling their coworkers, workplace bullies. It's a secret that companies don't want to talk about. Plus, the assassination of JFK. Was it Oswald or a conspiracy? Now, secret new information will forever change the way you think about this national tragedy. Next week on Forbidden Secrets.
Secrets.